If you skip this video, you might spend all of next spring wondering why your favorite plants barely bloomed. There's a small window right now, closing fast, where 5 plants in your garden are begging for a trim. Miss it, and you're not just losing a few branches. You're losing next year's flowers, next year's fruit, and honestly, a bit of your garden's personality. Stick around, because plant number 3 surprises almost everyone who's ever grown it, and by the end, you'll know exactly what to grab your pruners for this weekend. Hey, welcome back to Earthly Gardening, the channel where we help you grow more without spending more. If this is your first time here, I'm glad you found us right in the middle of one of the most important pruning windows of the whole year. And if you've been with us a while, you already know August sneaks up on gardeners every single time. So grab a drink, get comfortable, because we're walking through this together. Before we get to plant number 2, if this is helping you out, tap that like button. It genuinely tells YouTube to show this to more garden owners just like you, and it costs you nothing. And if you've got a plant you're not sure about pruning right now, drop it in the comments. I read every single one, and I might just answer yours in a future video. Plant number 1, lilac. Let's start with a shrub. Almost every backyard has tucked somewhere near a fence or a front porch. Lilac. That fragrant purple bush your grandmother probably grew. The one whose smell alone can pull you straight back to childhood. And also the one most people prune at the completely wrong time without even realizing the mistake they're making. Here's the thing about lilacs. Nobody sits you down and explains. They don't set next year's flower buds in spring like a lot of shrubs do. They set them right now, in these very weeks after this year's blooms have faded and dropped off. So if you wait until fall cleanup or a lazy winter afternoon to grab your pruners and tidy up that lilac, thinking you're doing it a favor, you're actually cutting off every single bloom it had already started preparing for you. You would be standing there next April, staring at a plant that looks perfectly green and perfectly healthy, and wondering why it refuses to give you a single flower. It's honestly one of the most heartbreaking mistakes in gardening, because it's completely invisible until months later. You won't see the damage today. You'll see it next spring, when your neighbor's lilac is bursting with color, and yours is just sitting there looking confused. So here's the fix, and it really is simple once you know it. Right now, while the plant is actively deciding where those buds are going to form along its branches, walk around it slowly and look for 3 things. First, any dead or clearly damaged wood, the kind that snaps dry instead of bending. Second, branches that are crossing over each other or rubbing, because that friction creates wounds that invite disease. Third, growth crowding the center of the shrub, blocking light and air from reaching the inner branches. Cut spent flower clusters back to a strong pair of healthy leaves just below where the bloom was. This tells the plant to redirect its energy into forming next year's buds right at that spot, instead of wasting resources on old dead flower heads. Don't go overboard here though. Lilacs genuinely don't respond well to a drastic haircut. Think of it more like a light trim at the barber rather than shaving the whole thing down. Take off maybe a third at most in any given year. Focus on shape and airflow rather than size, and trust the plant to do the rest of the work quietly on its own over the coming weeks. One more budget-friendly tip while you're out there. Save those trimmed lilac branches instead of tossing them straight into a yard waste bag. Woody cuttings like these are fantastic for building the base layer of a compost pile, and they break down beautifully over a season, giving you free material for next year's soil instead of paying for bagged mulch at the garden center. Plant number 2, bigleaf hydrangea. Now here's one that trips up even people who have been gardening for years, sometimes decades. Bigleaf hydrangea, the kind with those big round mophead blooms or the flatter, more delicate lace cap style that a lot of people have lining a shady side of their house. Most hydrangeas out there actually fall into 2 very different camps, and this distinction matters more than almost anything else about pruning them. Some varieties bloom on new growth that shoots up fresh every single spring, and those types are forgiving no matter when you decide to cut them back. But bigleaf hydrangeas belong to the other camp entirely. They're old wood bloomers, which means the flowers you'll admire next summer are already quietly forming inside this year's stems right now, in the middle of August. Prune them the way people usually handle shrubs, waiting for fall or winter cleanup, and you will snip off next summer's entire flower show without even realizing what you just did. I've heard from so many gardeners over the years who swore their hydrangea was dying because it stopped flowering, only to realize a well-meaning fall trim was the actual culprit. The plant wasn't sick at all, it just lost its buds before they ever had a chance to open. So this month, walk out to your hydrangea with a much lighter hand than you might be tempted to use. Only remove what genuinely needs removing. That means dead stems left over from winter damage, any weak or spindly growth that never really thrived this season, and spent blooms if you want a slightly tidier appearance heading into fall. Cut those spent flowers just above the first healthy set of leaves you find below them, working your way down the stem slowly, rather than hacking across the whole plant at once. Everything else, and I mean everything else, should be left completely alone. I know the temptation is real. You look at that bush, and part of you wants to shape it into something neat, symmetrical, almost sculpted. But with this particular plant, restraint is genuinely what earns you flowers next year. Put the pruners down before you get carried away, and let the plant keep what it's already worked so hard to build. If your hydrangea struggled with blooms this past summer, take a mental note now rather than reaching for fertilizer. Often the issue traces back to pruning at the wrong time in a previous year, not a lack of nutrients. Fixing the timing costs nothing and solves the real problem at its root. Plant number 3, wisteria. All right, this is the one I promised would surprise you, and I still think it's the most misunderstood plant on this entire list. Wisteria. Most people either ignore wisteria completely, letting it sprawl across a fence or arbor however it pleases, or they attack it aggressively once a year with big dramatic cuts and then wonder why it never blooms the way it does in those postcard photos everyone dreams about. Here's the truth. Nobody hands you, when you buy that first wisteria from the nursery. It actually needs 2 separate pruning sessions a year to bloom properly, and the one happening right now, in late summer, is the one that quietly decides whether you get any flowers at all come next spring. Those long, whippy green shoots wisteria throws out constantly all summer long aren't doing much for you at all, besides stealing valuable energy away from the rest of the plant. They look impressive, sure, all that fast growth reaching in every direction, but they're mostly just green mass with no intention of ever flowering. Right now is the time to take those long tendrils and cut them back to about 5 or 6 buds, counting from where each shoot originally started. This single step forces the plant to stop wasting its energy on pointless sprawling growth and instead redirect that energy into forming actual flower buds along the shorter, stubbier spurs closer to the main structure. Skip this step entirely, which is what most people accidentally do, and you'll end up with a wisteria that looks like a jungle vine taking over your backyard, but flowers like a genuine disappointment come spring. It sounds almost backwards when you first hear it, cutting back growth in the middle of summer heat in order to get flowers the following spring. But that's exactly why so many people quietly give up on wisteria, convinced it's just a stubborn, difficult plant that refuses to bloom for them. It's not stubborn at all. It just needed this one overlooked step that almost nobody mentions until it's already too late for the season. While you're up there trimming, take a moment to check whether your wisteria's support structure is holding up. These plants get remarkably heavy over the years, and a fence or trellis that seemed sturdy when you planted it can start leaning under the weight. A little reinforcement now, using scrap wood or leftover posts you already have lying around, saves you from a much bigger repair job later. Quick pause before we move into plant 4 and 5, because these last 2 matter just as much as the first 3, maybe even more for some of you watching. If you're finding this useful so far, go ahead and hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss what's coming up this fall, because there's a lot more seasonal timing most gardeners never hear about. Drop a comment down below telling me which of these plants is sitting somewhere in your yard right now, whether you knew this timing already or whether this is completely new information for you. And if this has been helpful, give this video a thumbs up so it reaches more garden owners who need to hear this before their own window closes. All right, let's keep going. Plant number 4, spring flowering shrubs, like forsythia. Forsythia is one of the very first things to bloom every single spring. That unmistakable wall of bright yellow flowers appearing before most trees have even bothered growing their leaves back. And just like lilac, it forms next year's buds shortly after this year's flowers finish blooming. which means late summer is genuinely your last real window to shape it without sacrificing next year's entire show. If your forsythia has gotten leggy over the years, overgrown, or is starting to flop over sideways from its own weight, the way older shrubs often do, now is exactly the time to fix that problem. Remove the oldest, thickest stems right down at the base of the plant to encourage fresh, vigorous growth to come up from the ground. Trim back any branches that have grown well past the natural shape and outline of the shrub, the ones sticking out awkwardly or reaching into a walkway. And if your forsythia is really overgrown, the kind that's taken over half a corner of your yard, you don't have to fix years of neglect in one single afternoon. You can take out about a third of the oldest wood this year, then repeat that same process again next year, rather than cutting the entire shrub back all at once. That gradual approach means you're not sacrificing an entire season of blooms just to correct something that took years to get out of hand. This is also a great time to divide any suckers or offshoots your forsythia has thrown up around its base. Instead of cutting those extra shoots and discarding them, dig them up gently with a bit of root attached and replant them elsewhere in your yard, or share them with a neighbor. It's essentially a free shrub for zero extra cost, which fits perfectly with growing more without spending more. Plant number 5, climbing roses, especially the once blooming types. Last one on our list, and it's a plant a lot of people wrongly assume you prune in early spring, like most other roses in the garden. But once blooming climbing roses, the ones that give you one big generous flush of flowers rather than repeating blooms all season long, actually set their buds for next year on the very growth they're producing right now, in the heat of late summer. Prune these the way you'd typically prune other roses, waiting until early spring, and you'll end up cutting away the exact canes that were about to carry next year's flowers. Instead, right after their summer bloom finishes, is your real moment to act. Remove any dead, damaged, or diseased canes first, cutting cleanly back to healthy green tissue so the plant isn't wasting resources trying to repair wood that's already beyond saving. Then choose a handful of the strongest new canes to train carefully along your trellis, fence, or arbor for next year's growth, guiding them gently rather than forcing them into place. Trim back any smaller side shoots growing off the older canes to encourage the plant to flower more generously along its length, rather than putting energy into unnecessary bushiness. Think of this less like traditional pruning and more like arranging, gently guiding the plant into the shape you want it to hold through the coming winter, and straight into next spring's bloom. If you've been buying garden twine every season to tie up climbing roses, save yourself the cost. Old strips of soft fabric, worn-out t-shirts cut into strips, or even nylon stockings work just as well for training canes without cutting into the stems the way stiff wire sometimes can. Bonus plant, Rhododendron and azalea. Before we wrap things up, I wanted to sneak in one bonus plant, because this one gets overlooked constantly and it fits perfectly with everything we've already covered today. Rhododendron, along with its close cousin azalea, those broad-leafed shrubs covered in big, showy blooms come spring, especially in shadier corners of the yard. Just like lilac and forsythia, rhododendrons and azaleas set their flower buds for next year, shortly after this year's blooms fade, which puts us right in that same closing window we've been talking about this entire video. Prune them too late in the year, once fall or winter rolls around, and you're cutting away buds that have already formed, leaving you with a lovely green shrub next spring that simply refuses to flower. The good news is, these two are actually pretty low maintenance when it comes to pruning. Most years you don't need to do much beyond removing dead or winter-damaged branches and lightly shaping anything that's grown out of bounds. If your shrub is older and has gotten leggy or bare at the bottom, you can selectively remove a few of the oldest, thickest stems down low to encourage fresh growth to fill back in. Just resist the urge to shear the whole thing into a tight ball the way you might with a hedge. These plants naturally want a looser, more relaxed shape, and forcing them into something formal often costs you flowers for very little visual reward. One thing worth checking while you're out there: rhododendrons and azaleas both prefer slightly acidic soil, and if yours has been struggling to bloom well even with correct pruning, used coffee grounds sprinkled around the base work as a completely free way to nudge the soil in the right direction over time. No bagged soil amendments required. That makes 6 plants total quietly asking for your attention this month, not just 5, and every one of them shares that same closing window before it slips away for another year. So there you have it, 5 plants that are quietly asking for your attention this month, and 5 small windows that close faster than most people ever realize until it's already too late. Lilac, hydrangea, wisteria, forsythia, and climbing roses all share this one thing in common. What you do, or don't do, to them right now decides what your garden looks like next year, long before you've even started thinking about spring planting. The good news in all of this is that none of it costs you a single dime. No fancy tools, no special fertilizers, no trip to buy expensive products you'll use once and forget about. Just a pair of pruners you almost certainly already own, and about 20 minutes per plant if you're willing to go out there this week, instead of putting it off for another weekend that may never come. If this video helped you catch something in your own garden before it was too late, that's exactly why this channel exists in the first place. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, so you catch the next video before another seasonal window quietly sneaks past you without warning. Drop a comment and let me know which of these 5 plants you're heading outside to check first, because I genuinely read every single one. And if you know someone whose garden could use this reminder, send it their way. It might save their blooms next spring. I'll see you in the next one.